Hey, PCTI STEMers. This is the beginning of the second part of Unit 6 on imperialism. So today we're going to focus a bit on the causes of imperialism, just a brief foundation. And it's important to realize that this isn't the first time imperialism ever existed. The Roman Empire, for example, you can consider imperialists, because imperialism is just the political and economic control of one state or country over another. And that happened before. But this is a period where you see a marked increase in that. And we cover this in the same unit as the Industrial Revolution for a very big reason. The Industrial Revolution, as we saw, created a need for raw materials to produce stuff. So through imperialism, countries, but really financiers and a small group of business people were able to obtain things like coal and oil and copper and iron and even timber through imperialist means. And then they also had new markets to sell this goods to. So the cause for the Industrial Revolution, or the effects, like the Industrial Revolution in general, is a big cause of why this imperialism happened. So let's 4234, call that extension. When imperialism was happening, as I said, and you probably want to write this down, okay? It's a political and economic control of one area or country by another. A simpler way to say that is just it was the process of extending one state's control over another one. Right, so just like you see in this political cartoon, which was like edited, so you can see the names of the countries. Here, the example, England, remember where the Industrial Revolution began. It's no wonder that that becomes a leading imperialist power. It's trying to take control over other countries so that it can have access to their raw materials, so that maybe it can use their people for cheap labor. So maybe it can then make goods and sell stuff to those people. Right, so this is all very connected. Like we said, things don't exist in little eras in history, that they relate. All right, so we got that. There's a lot of causes. So if you want to break down in your notes, like the social, political, and economic causes of imperialism, that's probably what you want to do. So what were some of the social causes? Well, for one, you have Christian missionaries, people who legitimately thought they were doing a good deed by going and saving people. They felt that these people were going to burn in hell if they were not saved. And also they wanted to, increase the power of their religion. So whether you see that as a good thing or a bad thing, regardless, it was a cause. Also, we have nationalism. Imperialism isn't just the process of taking over, it's the attitude of taking over. The idea that our flag is superior. And we're proud of our flag. And not to say there's anything wrong with being proud of where you are, but the idea that we are then going to beat out the other countries and we're going to conquer this land before they do, right? Think now, who wants to go to Mars first? And it might not be the same as countries, because countries are working together. It might be between companies, but that same desire, that same attitude. Okay. Also, you have ethnocentrism and racism. So ethnocentrism is judging other cultures by standards of your own culture. So the idea that our culture is better, we should take over them. They're inferior. We can make them like us. And we want to help them, right? In some ways, they thought they were being very generous. We're going to talk about social Darwinism in a class. Right, we know about Darwinism, about natural selection, survival of the fittest, the idea that the weak cultures should be subjugated to the stronger cultures. So we have guys like Herbert Spencer wrote about this, Arthur de Gobineau, who was from a French aristocratic family, and his writings suggested that race was the master key to solving the world's problems, and really enforced these ideas, which are supported now by, even today, by racist groups, right? So you see even these racial tendencies in advertising, right? The white man's burden is through teaching the virtues of cleanliness, like we're the only clean people and they need to learn our ways. So we'll talk more about this in class as well. Keep in mind, look at these ads for soap. Have these racist tendencies in advertising gone away? Because this is a recent Dove advertisement they got a lot of flack for, as they should have, right? We also have political causes of nationalism. So while nationalism is a social cause, it's also a political cause, right? Things overlap, like I said. We want to take over this territory before someone else does. So from this example, between 1875 and this point here in the map, 90% of Africa, right, was controlled by a small group of European countries. 90%. Also, the people in those countries would then be a source of troops. India was a very lucrative, very important colony for Britain. It was called the jewel in the British crown. And not only did they do things there like grow cotton, for example, but the Indian people then became a source of troops for England, for this example, to go fight in World War I. Irish troops under English control fought for England. And we'll talk more about that in this unit, and we'll talk more about this again when we get to World War I. And keep in mind, this was about European dominance. Were there imperialist countries that weren't European? Sure. Japan was an imperialist nation in Asia, and we'll get to that. But a small group of European powers controlled 25% of the world's land between 1870 and 1900. So, just put that in perspective. Okay. There were also economic causes of the of imperialism. Like I mentioned, they wanted different raw materials, coal and all things like that. So this shows you just the things in South America that it could get. Also, cheap labor, you see just here as people as servants or even working in coal mines. You could probably pay them less than you would pay the people back home. Also, new markets. Now you had new markets to sell these goods to. So you see this once again in this advertisement, this idea. And that is it. I want to bring attention, because this is our STEM history, and we'll talk more about this, that a lot of technology made this possible. There are new weapons to protect themselves from when they wanted to take over an area, the telegraph to help communicate an empire, railroads to get the raw materials out of these areas, even the steamboat, then medicines to protect them from certain diseases. So they'd be protected, especially in South American imperialism. So this was a brief review of why imperialism was a thing. And we're going to spend more time in class. We're going to look at a lot of political cartoons of the time. All right, so if you have any questions, make sure to see me and go back and take notes at some point for any future quizzes and all those things.